Yay.
Yay. Well, Mary Anna Wright and I are back again. I know that I got lots of feedback from certainly the people in my Brilliance Room on that, saying that they really, really, really loved the conversation we had last week.
Brilliant.
Mary Anna.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, and they really were getting a lot out of it too. So it is Australia Day, hence the real Aussie look today. A good old
You've gone overboard, making yourself up to look like an Australian.
I thought I'll do real true blue today and even have the singlet tan marks and all on that. And also very naughty, a bit of sun burnt as well, as typical Australia Day. I think just about everyone gets sunburnt on Australia Day, no matter how much sunscreen we slop and slap on. But anyone knows that Vanessa just shows up as she is. Sometimes, Mariana, I wish I could be like some of those gorgeous, glamorous coaches that you see all the time. And every time that they're live, they just look immaculate. But that is so not me. So
I have a feeling that there's a lot of prep that goes on behind the scenes anyway.
All right, I'm going to keep an eye on the phone. So I do have it here because we are streaming live via Zoom. So we can't see any comments or anything. So Mary and I will have a conversation. But I will keep an eye on Facebook here in front of me as well, because I can see that. So I'll just turn that right down sideways. So everyone, Mariana and I have been talking about, and if you haven't already caught Mariana and you are catching us this time around, Mariana is a coach mentor, also one of a very long experienced coach in leadership and communications as well. And also I find a little interesting tidbit, which I absolutely love, a former president of the ICF Ireland chapter as well. I love adding that little one. So if you are a coach, you know, Mariana is the lady to talk about, because, yeah, you've been heavily involved with the ICF, and I think you still do today, don't you, to some degree?
I've done, a couple of months ago, I did some volunteering at a global level. I do try and tap in, because it's one of those organisations that I really love, and it's mostly there's a professional team, but it's mostly run by coaches. So I believe that if you're going to kind of have any influence in the profession, it's good to get involved. So yes, I've been involved in a piece of work that I'm not supposed to talk about too much, actually, but it was an interesting piece of work, because it was looking at some of the credentialing processes. Yeah. And the last time was looking at the job of being a coach. So when I can, I volunteer. And actually, top tip for people in your group, Vanessa, volunteering in any capacity is a great way to raise your profile, because it helps you get known, liked and trusted. So yeah, step
Absolutely up. As many ways as you can actually get out there will all help to raise your profile.
Yeah.
So we have been talking about how to become better as a coach. It's our whole series. So we're going to be doing this series over the next couple of weeks. And I'll be encouraging people to come and join Mary Anna in her group. And also you do have a webinar coming up in the very near future. And we'll give a little touch on that as well, so people can start signing up for that as well. And this is really focused, and I'll let you tell a little bit more. But if you do really want to improve what you're doing as a coach and build the skills, but also build how you're putting your business together as well, you're just the whole thing as a coach, Mary Anna is the one to talk to. Now, one of the things we're going to chat today, our little theme for today, was why you feel we should be taking a holistic approach to our work as a coach.
Absolutely. And I think that going back to the webinar and the piece of work coming up, that's why I've put that together, because I think that when people are setting out becoming a coach, they've trained to be a coach, but they haven't taken the step to become a coach. And I think there is a difference. I think most training schools focus on the actual skill set of coaching, but it takes more than that to become a coach. And I know certainly, Vanessa, you're talking about helping people raise their profile and have a sense of kind of congruence and authenticity about the way that people show up. I think it's even more than that. I think last time we talked about coaching skills. I think you need to develop your skill set. You obviously need to raise your profile. You need to look at your business, and that takes time. and you need to look after yourself. We talked about that a little bit last time, the kind of self-care piece. And there's all the kind of the administrative side of coaching as well, behind the scenes. So there's a holistic approach in terms of your work as a coach, which is what my webinar taps into, the kind of landscape of professional coaching and what you need to address and how you need to plan your time to be able to address all of those issues. But the other thing is your work as a coach, the coaching skills thing. We have people come to us and, excuse me, we talk about niches and customer segments and all of those kind of things when we're talking about the marketing of coaching. But actually, most people, they may come thinking, yes, I'm a woman returner going back after maternity leave, but you aren't just coaching them on that. You are coaching the whole person, which is why I say we need a holistic approach to the work we do.
All right, because that's what I was going to ask you, what do you actually mean by that? We need a holistic approach, but now I get it. You're coaching the whole person in essence.
Yeah, and we are, as a coach, we're not just coaching, we're running businesses, we're developing our businesses, we're developing our skill sets. So that's why we need a holistic approach to ourselves in our work as coaches, but also the person in front of us. We need a holistic approach with them. There was an interesting conversation in your group, Vanessa, about woo-woo language on bios. And I think that's a case.
That was me.
Yeah, that was you. That was you. But I think that's a case in point, and it might illustrate what I'm talking about a little bit. So, you know, the kind of the woo-woo language is a great example that most people that could really benefit, this is me, my personal belief, people that could benefit from that kind of more spiritual, rounded approach are probably the people that are going to be most resistant to it. The people that could really, yeah, the people that could really do with having a good look at their personal stuff are the people that are likely to, you know, pull down the shutters and close shop if you're too woo. I was at the most fabulous conference a few years ago, and one of the speakers was talking about exactly this issue and saying that, you know, when you're dealing with linear thinkers, a little bit of neuroscience is very helpful. And the example given was, you know, if you're doing an exercise with somebody and you want them to close their eyes, as soon as you say, let's, you know, close our eyes, I can, you know, can almost imagine the kind of cluck, 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 oh God, I'm not going there. However, if you say something like, it might benefit us if we close their eyes here because it will turn off the visual processing part of our brain, you know, a little sprinkling of neuroscience, then they're more likely to engage. And actually that little sprinkling of neuroscience is one example of what I'm saying about us as coaches having a holistic approach, because we need to have a variety of bits of information to our fingertips, as well as the skill set that we offer.
That's what I love. That's what I love, what you just said. The ability to have other little bits of pieces of information that we can bring in as coaches, you know, other than just our straight, what we've learned as coaches in our coach training school. There can sometimes be an argument about that though, Mariana.
Oh, definitely.
My group here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there will be an
argument. Happy to talk to that one, if you like. The idea of, you know, coaches we shouldn't tell. And I think, you know, even as a very, very rigorously tested ICF coach, you know, I told you last time that I picked that credential because I thought it was the toughest. And that's the kind of person I am. There's an argument within those circles about telling. But of course, if we have information, we sometimes share it. But it's the way you do it that counts. Because if you're just sitting there telling somebody stuff and giving them advice, then you're either teaching them or you're consulting, you're not coaching. However, if in the course of a conversation with your clients, there's something that you think may benefit them, you can offer it. It's the light touch that matters. And the second piece to that is it's the offering. It's that, you know, there's a bit of neuroscience that might be of interest here. Do you want me to share it? And and hearing that, what's happening for you, it's the check-in afterwards, because that gives your client the opportunity to go, no, or yes, that's exactly it, that resonates. So you need to check in and you need to make sure that they want to have this piece of information offered. You know, I was at a conference last week and I heard blah, 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 blah. Do you want to discuss that now? You know, that's the way. It's the light touch. It's not the sitting there going, oh, you know, it's not the straight telling. You're not a teacher, you're a coach. So it's part of your competency as a coach is how, if there's relevant information, you offer it with a light touch.
Yeah. Look, one of the things that we had conversation in this group about, and you know, and it's interesting that you brought this up, and I see it as part of my holistic approach to my coaching work, was one of the courses I offer. And I've had a lot of people go, you can't do that, it's not coaching. But I actually offer a course that is tarot for coaches. So it actually shows people how to use the tarot cards to actually use the questions, bring out the insights within the thing, within the client. And I got told so many times, you can't do that. The tarot is predictive and it's telling people. I'm like, no, not the way that I teach people to use it. But that's just an example of a holistic, you know, another whole way or another modality that I bring in to bring more to my coaching, only for those that are open to it, though, Mariana. As you can imagine, some people are not. They prefer the more traditional ways, but it's just one little aspect I bring in. But it's not sitting
I'm laughing.
tarot cards. Do you know what I mean? I'm not reading the tarot cards for them, but we do. It's like archetypes brought into coaching as well. Oh, you have your tarot there, do you?
I don't have tarot. I have a whole, but I know people that use tarot. My one tarot deck is actually, I'm holding on to it because before my mum died, she had done a reading, and it's still formatted. So I don't use mine. I've got a whole load of props, and I think if you view them as props, that's a different thing. I mean, obviously, some people, you know, when you're doing a tarot reading, you do have a strong intuition about something. And that, again, it's the light touch. It's the piece of information you have that may or may not be useful for your client. And that's how it's offered. But yeah, absolutely. I have got a whole load of different types of cards, and they are designed for coaches. And they are, you know, they're images, and they prompt. They've got words. These ones have got words on one side, you know, and they are a prompt. It's like, you know, what if you're talking about career, for example, you know, out of all of these, what appeals? What is it about that? What's of interest? You know, what's the connection between these? It prompts those questions, and they're really, really useful tools.
Yeah.
Similarly, I've got a little box of tricks, you know, a magic box of kind of a shell and a bead and a whatever, and it's, you know, I use it in coach supervision. This person's here and this person's here, and but I do bring those into, you know, the linear thinker. I have a very senior accountant that works in tax, and he was describing this very complicated work situation. We couldn't get our head around it, and he needed to describe it. So I get out the box of tricks, and he can move things around. The shells here, the beads here, the whatever's here, and this is this and this is this, and he moved them how he wanted them, and what would it take? You know, they're very useful.
Yeah.
But yes, people interpret things in different ways. I think the thing about tarot, and actually one of these decks I tend not to use, is because they're quite provocative images. I think with tarot, people have their whole baggage with them, don't they? It's kind of like this whole, you know, and it's all of that stuff, which is just, you know, anyway, can get
I just thought I'd bring that in because it's like, oh, you can't do that, that's not coaching. And it's like, you don't know how I'm using them. And as Julie mentioned, Julie is listening in, and she says that she brings astrology, archetypes, even scent, ritual, and intention within it all as what she calls I consider them to be tools to help as well. I mean, obviously there's other things I bring in as well, but I just thought, because I had done the tarot conversations recently, and I thought I'd bring that up because it was quite interesting, people's responses to that. And yet I use the tarot, as I said, not for everyone, and we're certainly not doing readings for them as such, but like you said, it's like a tool. It's like, well, what are you getting out of this message? I'll get the message up, and it's like, or even the archetype that comes through in the tarot. How is that archetype? How can you, or do you want to bring that out within yourself? How do you bring out those qualities of that archetype within yourself? So I think they're amazing tools.
Yeah, they are. And, you know, we have our own inbuilt archetypes, you know, that people use. One of the most powerful things we can use in coaching is metaphor. You know, people come up with, I feel stuck, I feel like a ship at sea. Oh, you feel like a ship at sea. What are you looking for to get safely to shore? You know, you run with the metaphor. There are inbuilt ways of symbolizing very complex issues in a few words. Very powerful things. Vanessa, something's coming up for me, which is an interesting conversation in itself, which is that I've had it with coaches that I supervise about the kind of, there's been a real shift in the coaching profession to go from a kind of thou shalt not, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that, that's not coaching, that's not, to a much more kind of make a decision, have it contracted for with your client, and live with the outcome, particularly in terms of ethics. It's, you know, I was taught you shouldn't coach friends and family, you shouldn't coach a leader of a team and a team member, you shouldn't do this. Whereas now it's kind of, okay, well, if you're going to do it, let's think through the consequences. Let's talk to those people and say what implications are there. How is this going to pan out? What do we do if things go wrong? It's a more mature way of approaching things. Same with tarot. It's like, you know, I've got these cards. Are you interested in using them? It's contracted for. Have the conversation.
Yeah. And I think that's important too, to make sure that that tool that you're wanting to bring in, or the prompt as you call them, is that you've asked about it.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't bring them tarot out. That's just one tool I use. It's always, do you want to look at this? On most occasions, I'll get a yes. And you know what, Mariana, it's really surprising. Sometimes the people that you think would be completely closed down to it, a little bit like what you're talking about, they're like, oh, yes, you know, the little eyes light up. I've you know, had some businessmen that have come on, big businessmen with big companies. And when I say, let's look at the archetypes, I think that might be really helpful. Or we'll go and have a look at the tarot because that's got the archetypes in it as well. They're like, oh, yes, their eyes light up.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing how something, when you bring in something a little different, it can actually add that extra dimension to your coaching with that particular client, and almost have them almost reinvigorated with the coaching experience as well.
I think this is the holistic approach again, because it's not making an assumption about somebody. This is a businessman, they're not going to be interested in this. It's ask them, you know, just see because actually some of this other work is really, you know, would be really beneficial to them. A very simple thing I do is kind of based on almost like an NLP, perceptual positions, where you step into a role. And I've used that with very, you know, suit and tie wearing senior, you know, kind of people that understand numbers more than I do people. And yeah, kind of, okay, look, you're running this meeting. How about just trying it out for size? Step into it now. How are you feeling? What's going on? And just notice them, shift their body language and feed that back to them. It's you know, it's a broad approach. Yeah, I think it's
almost like we can play, isn't it, a bit with our coaching?
Absolutely. You know, bringing humor. Yeah, bringing humor, bringing fun to it. And that's it though, Vanessa. It's not done in the this is right, I'm the coach here, we're going to do this. It's do you fancy having a bit of an experiment? It's that setup, you know, if it doesn't sit well with you, well, we just won't do it anymore. But I think there might be something useful here. It's the setup. It's, you know, I have a feeling there could be something in here for you, but if not, don't worry about it. We'll just experiment and just, you know, leave it.
Yeah. So in terms of having a holistic approach, there's a couple of things you pointed on. One is, you know, like as long as we're asking permission and we're having a bit of a play and a bit of an experiment, that's actually okay, isn't it? We don't have to sit there by the rules and all the shouldn'ts that we get told as coaches. And I hear it a lot because I mix with a lot of coaches. And I'd say it's not the new coaches coming through, by the way. It's very, very old experienced coaches who have a lot of, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that, and that's not coaching.
I think the shouldn'ts and the older style coaches, they need to pay attention. One of the things you should do is continually
now.
But, you know, one of the things I like about being an ICF coach is that we have to commit to our continuing professional development. So, for example, our code of ethics changes every few years, and we have to study ethics as an ongoing thing. So really, I hear it still though, but you shouldn't do that. But actually, as a good coach, you should be paying attention to how the profession's developed. You know the foundation, but actually these kind of conversations that we're having, you should be listening in on and making your own mind up and thinking, you know, okay, we've moved on from the thou shalt nots to yes, you can if it's contracted for, agreed upon, thought about, discussed. So that's where I'm at. So, you know, we really should be paying attention to our continuing development so that we can keep ahead of the conversation. The holistic approach then, so it's us as coaches. So this is the paying attention to our development and our business, and you know that changes. The whole social media field changes constantly. It's how we look after ourselves in the work. It's the building our skill set and the running our businesses. So it's a holistic approach to being a coach. We can't just think of ourselves as the person that does the coaching. And that's what my webinar is about, this understanding the landscape. But it's creating our, the whole work of being a coach is much more than just coaching. But
and
our clients,
sorry, I think I was just going to say, I think you're so right, because, you know, as a former coach mentor myself, you know, now I work very much with developing a coach's radiance and influence so that they do bring in the clients and bring in the opportunities as well, and of course the income. But I remember as a straight coach mentor working on those coaching skills, a lot of the coaches, the new coaches, would come in and they literally would shy away from anything that had to do with the actual business building, because
too salesy, too business, don't blah blah blah. Yeah,
they literally thought a coaching profession was sitting down every day helping people through a coaching. And so they missed out a lot on actually understanding, like you're talking about, the holistic part of the wholeness of what it takes to be a coach. So I love that you're doing the webinar on this, and I encourage people, we will put the link up, but we'll be talking about this over the next couple of weeks as well. So we'll keep reminding about the webinar, but it's a good one if you want to really tap into this more holistic approach, because I'm telling you, new people, it is not, if you want to succeed as a coach or thrive, I think is our better word. You're not just going to sit around coaching all day. That's
and I would say,
I learned.
You know, I think it's, you know, it's at the moment I'm coaching more than I have done, but it goes in peaks and troughs. You know, there's times when you're really focusing on the business side, there's times when you're focusing on the professional development, but coaching is one of the 5 duties of being a coach. The actual delivery.
Because I know that you said them the other day, but we do have people that would have missed that first time around.
Absolutely.
I'll go through some of the comments in a minute, but just go through those 5 things again.
There's a 6th one as well, but let me just, you know, at this stage of being a coach, there's 5 main ones, and this is the topic that I'll go into with the Coach's Roadmap webinar, and I've got a program as well about it. So the one is the coaching. Coaching is one of the 5 duties, and that's what, you know, we went to training, we read the books, we want to be a coach. That's what we think of as being a coach. Coaching, it makes sense, doesn't it?
Wants to do, isn't it?
Yeah.
The coaching part.
Yeah. The second one is the building the business piece, and that, Vanessa, is you are the goddess of. This is the increasing your radiance and your profile and getting your voice heard, and you know, it's that piece. Then there's
Australia Day sunburnt goddess today.
Absolutely. And as I said earlier, you did a great job in for your pallid Irish cousins, making yourself up to look the part. Thank you.
Showing up like the true Aussie that I am today.
We've got the coaching, the building the business. Then we've got professional development, continuous work on your competencies of being a coach. We tapped into it. This is the actual skill set. This is really fine-tuning your skills, but it's also some of the understanding the context. So some of the broader issues, like, you know, latest developments in neuroscience, so you can tap it into your work. Understanding organizational development. If you're a life coach, understanding some of the stuff about nutrition or whatever it is that you know is your field. But I think we all need a little bit of information about this. You know, I think it helps us. So there's the professional development piece. Then there's the admin side, and that sometimes can take up time depending on what you're doing. You know, things like booking flights, scheduling, invoicing, tax returns. My top tip is when you're starting out, do your own tax return. It's a real eye-opener, and it gets you really familiar with your numbers. And it made me change my business because I was doing a lot of travel, and I turned it around when I did my tax return. And I don't think if I'd handed over to
Yeah,
someone
we'll
else, I
talk
would have.
about that one in a minute when you finish off
Yeah.
the next one as well, because we'll get through the 5 of them. But I want to touch on that because I think that particular point's really interesting. But finish off with the
And
other
then
one, Mariana.
the last one is the modeling self-care and well-being. And
Yeah.
that's the controversial. Well, for me, that was the controversial. That was the big resistance, because I now do not believe that you can coach unless you are doing the work yourself. So that's one, and that takes up time, because when people get busy, quite often it goes out the window. So that one, yeah,
That is so true.
absolutely. And we're all, I think, well, most of us are guilty for it. That that's the. And the other one that goes out a little bit is the marketing. So people have, a big project coming up, working with clients, they're head down, working, not eating well, not looking after themselves well, but then also not marketing their business. They get to the end of the project, they have no clients. They're right back at the beginning.
Yep, absolutely. That's why I always talk about, those of you who are really, know my work will know that I always talk about consistency, because I've done that. And it's what's one of the things that actually cause what is the no and feast and famine for coaches, where you've got a whole lot of clients, and then you're so busy serving them that you're forgetting about the other aspects. And then when those clients all drop off, you haven't got any new ones to replace them. So there is that consistency for that. So I'm glad you point that up. The other one I want to bring up, of course, is the good old admin work. That is one of the areas that I absolutely suck at, is that actual admin stuff, because that's the last thing that I'll do is got to do the invoicing, and I've got to do the bags, and I've got to do the financial statements and all that sort of stuff. But one thing that I find really helpful for coaches, and you said it, and that is doing your own finances and having, I use MYOB, but having some sort of program or something, there's QuickBooks and all sorts of different ones, but being able to look at your numbers is going to help you as a coach. Because if you ignore the financial aspect of stuff, I think there's a big blind spot there. So that's what I always say to my coaches when they come through them programs. One of the things I'm into them is know your numbers.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely,
doing those financial side of things yourself in the beginning can help you do the numbers. Now, obviously, I'm far from in the beginning, but I still, and this might be a surprise to some people, I still now, as I didn't in the beginning, but now I now do all my own financial stuff. I don't have a bookkeeper or anything anymore. I do it all myself. Everything else I have my team do, but that is one aspect I've kept to myself to do.
No, absolutely. I said I changed my business around. I used to do a lot of traveling and overnight trips. When I first moved to Ireland to kind of establish myself, I kept winning contracts. And when I looked at the end of the year of the costs involved and the fact that I was away from home and weighed it all up, it was just like, this has to change. And I don't think I'd have noticed it if I hadn't done it myself.
Yeah, because you did it yourself. You had a look, and you.
I literally cried over it the first time.
Yeah, where's the money going, and am I getting
suddenly it made sense. Yeah.
Same realization happened to me in the early days when I was doing a lot of traveling for speaking events, and I just thought, I'll do them. I'll pay for the flights. I don't get paid for the speaking events, but I'm going to pick up clients from them. But with the air flights, and it's not just city to city, which isn't too bad. So a lot of people who are applying. But for me, I'm out in the country here.
Yeah.
And from the country town into Sydney is more than the flight from Sydney to Brisbane or Sydney to Melbourne. So by the time all that added up, then the hotel room for a couple of days and the food and all the rest of the expenses, it just became, no, this is not really worth it for me. And so I just decided I'm going to stay home. And I haven't lost out by choosing to stay home. Now, I'm not giving that as advice to anyone. Stay home and don't go out. If you love the speaking gigs and all that, by all means. But same as you, Mariana, I found for me, this is not effective, and I didn't love doing it enough to say no,
No,
I'm doing it.
you're sitting there in a hotel room, on your own, watching, thinking, I'm not really living the dream here. This isn't really what I wanted to do. But I think the thing is that, Vanessa, you and I, we came to our own realization about this. And I think sometimes you can get, if you just pass it off to somebody else, they will give you the result, but without the analysis. And you need to really have a look and just think, is it worth it? Only you can ask that question, yeah, look at the profit, but look at the cost. 2 days a week away from my daughter and my, family and all of that. I don't think so.
Yeah.
For me at the time.
Can I go through a couple of the just responses here from everyone?
Yeah.
Thanks to everyone who's sitting here with us. Amy has said, she says any I can't even say the word, rigidity.
Rigidity.
Rigidity. Does it seem like I've been celebrating Australia Day? Will always get in the way of being able to coach successfully. I'm a bit of a flow person. I agree with that, Amy, in sense. I think we have to have that nice balance as well between our flow and our structure as well. That's
within the ICF competencies. There was a phrase. It's changing. With the language is changing, but it was dance in the moment was in there. And I think that sort of sums up that idea that that there needs to be some flow. Yeah. We're partnering with our clients, and you can't do that if you're too rigid.
That's a nice one. Let me have a look. This is another one from Amy. So much is about, as you said before, the permission with the client and being open and able to explore. And Amy's agreeing, coaching is only one piece of what it takes to create a successful business. Amy's been around for a while, so she'll get that. But I hope if you are newer as a coach and listening in on this, you're kind of really now getting a picture.
Yeah.
You do learn this in time, I will give you that, but we'll take some of the agony out of it, won't we, Mariana, and tell them now and show them now.
I was on in a group yesterday, and somebody was doing the kind of how to get your first paid client thing, and just spending so much time and effort into getting that first client. And it just, at the beginning, we will focus on the marketing, the building the business, but I believe at the same time, you need to be focusing on developing your skills. But there is a change in time where our focus is. And, I'm on a renewal cycle for my credentials. So some years I'm focusing more on development. I'm trying to pan it out, but you have to keep it all in mind. You need to know, okay, in a week, I'm going to be doing coaching for this day. This is where I'm going to really focus on my marketing. I've got some planners and things that I can give people, and it just maps it out so that you've got it all in mind, that you're covering all bases. Because a bit like when you're trying to feed a baby, the good health visitors say, just don't worry about each meal being balanced, so long as over the whole day or the whole week they're getting it all in. It's the same as coaches. We need to just keep a track of the balance to make sure that we're addressing all of the 5 duties.
I'm going to bring something up, and it might rub a few people the wrong way. It won't too much. People, I think, will understand, but me, I don't hold back. But it's really interesting. As I said, I've seen a lot of coaches, new coaches in my time, and then ongoing coaches as well. So it's not just the new coaches, but I do find over time there seems to be often 2 sets of the extreme. There are those coaches who just keep won't get or putting themselves out there until they've got the next certificate, and then the next certificate, and then the next training, and the next one, and still they're not getting in clients because they still don't think they're good enough, so they'll still do another certificate and another certificate, another certificate. So we have that one end of the scale where they're just continually developing their skills but still not doing the other aspects of the business, and that is actually getting out and coaching, bringing in clients, building the business through marketing and stuff. Then on the other extreme, we've got those who either never learn any coaching skills or do one quick course and say, that's it, I've got a certification, or I've got a thing to say that I've done the training and now I'm a coach, and that's where it ends. So I think there's two big sides to it, when really I think if like you're talking about, this holistic approach, because I'm a bit like you, like some years I'll do, 1 year I might do no professional development at all because my focus is the other way. And then another year I might do, I'm going to go and do this because this is really interesting. So I think we really, I'm not going to say should, but it would be really helpful if people were able to find that nice blend for themselves and not be
Yeah,
over here thinking you're never good enough unless you've got this one and this training and this training and so, or you know, oh, I'm rather all I need is good marketing and I'll be right. That's not fair on clients, for starters. Or, you know, my one little bit of training will do the job and that's where I'll stay. Because one of the ICF things is about consistent development, isn't it?
yes, yeah. I think this brings me back to this idea about a coach's roadmap, you know, the webinar that I'm doing, which is really understanding the landscape. And then you can pick your own route. You know, you decide where your destination is. For some people, it's the Ferrari or whatever. But for me, it's the flexible lifestyle and the ability to spend time where I want to and work with clients that, you know, inspire me. So you pick your destination, but you need to understand the landscape. I think there's the, you know, that don't get any training, but just double your fees and then people will come kind of mentality. And I actually don't believe half of that. I really don't believe it, you know.
Yeah.
But I think possibly people buy into it if that's what they want, you know, high fee, but not actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's a perceived fast track.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
And everyone, I mean, a lot of people are impatient, so they'll look for the easiest, fastest method. But I'm with you. I'll kind of roll my eyes, but yeah. Let me just have another look here. Oh, there might be a bit of an echo coming through the Zoom, Peter, because I've heard a little bit of it myself when I've talked. I've heard a little bit of an echo. So if anyone is hearing too much of an echo, I'm sorry. For the most part, I think it's been okay. It's only a couple of times I've heard it come through. Yeah.
I think it's better than last time we spoke. Last time there was a slight delay, but I'm not hearing it this time.
No, we don't have the delay this time. We're doing a lot better in that sense, but there's a couple of echoes come through, but that's okay. This is technology, guys. It's what is it is.
It's enabling me to speak with somebody around the world. It's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we will end it off and I'll go enjoy the rest of my Australia day, and you're just waking up. Julia said she hasn't heard the echo, but I know Pia might have, because I've heard a little bit. It's all cool. And
I have to go and check my horses are back in the field where they should be.
Yeah, look, horses, we took ours out. This is why I'm so sunburnt, even though I had sunscreen on. It's been really, really hot the last few days, everyone. If you're looking at me going, man, isn't she playing the Australian today on Australia Day? It's been really, really hot. So even though you put your sunscreen on in the morning, you basically sweat it all off because it is so hot. We went out to a friend's farm and went out there to play and work the horses and train the horses. And I think I'm only going to be there for an hour. And by the time we finish, we would have been there for 3 hours. And of course, all the sunscreen sweated off. And you can even see, guys, look, what's that? That's where my sunglasses were. Oh, I have to laugh, Mary, because if you don't laugh, it is what it is. All right, let's give a very, very unshameless plug. I want everyone, if you are listening, either live now in the replay, if you haven't checked out and jumped into Mary Anna's group, which is very different focus than mine. As I said, mine very much about how do you do that, step into the spotlight so that you are creating that radiance that's going to bring in your clients. Mary Anna's group is Coaching Presence. We will stick it up there straight away. I'll do it Wonderful. When we jump off. And I'll let you explain, but you have very different focuses than mine. It really is about building this skill set and this holistic approach to actually building yourself as a coach, isn't it? On a whole, not just for coaching people, but doing the whole thing that's going to have you thrive as a coach.
Yeah, my real emphasis in Coaching Presence is on our presence as coaches. So it's the competencies that we have, and it's a group of people at all levels working as coaches. So it's a great place to get questions asked about the work of being a coach. From, you know, I've got somebody struggling with this. Has anyone got any suggestions for how I can help them break through, or whatever, the actual practicalities of coaching. And the webinar that I've got coming up introduces this roadmap idea. So I've got a program about that, but I'm going to do a webinar which will just set out the duties, and there's some planning tools that can go with those as well, just to keep all of that in mind. Obviously, I'm going to a lot more depth in it than I've had the opportunity to here.
Yeah. Yeah, well, we're the same, aren't we? So we will, so jump into Mariana's group. I will put that link up straight away, which is Coaching Presence. And also we will set the link up for the webinar. I'll really encourage everyone to actually jump on the webinar, because you'll take what we've talked about into a much more, much greater level than us and our little chit chat. And now Mariana is going to be with me here for the next couple of weeks, and she's actually here to answer any questions at all that you may have around coaching competencies anyway, which, that's not my arena. You asked me about building that profile and doing some of the marketing and getting known and building an audience and all that stuff. But for Mariana, if you have got questions around coaching competencies, even developing your coaching skills, which I find, which is where many people are focused, actually, Mariana, it's interesting. There do come the occasional questions around, tools that you're using for as a coach and all that sort of stuff. But a lot of the questions that I see often are around, actually, how do I deal with this particular situation that the client presented?
I'm a supervisor, so that may help as well. I'm a coaching supervisor too, trained supervisor. So yeah, some of those nitty-gritty things about the ethics around coaching may be of interest as well.
Yeah, well, we had one come up the other day in my brilliance realm, which was quite interesting, which I won't bring up here, but little questions like that always coming up. And I'm really not the person that knows a great deal about that. Ask me around my areas and boom, but in terms of that, I'm not really the full bottle. Okay, so thank you, Mariana. I will see you again. Remember, guys, if you have questions at all, just pop them. Mariana will be hanging around, and she'll be able to see them. And I'm going to go and join the rest of my Australia Day. And you can go find your horses.
Chase them around the beach.
Thanks for everyone who's popped in
Thank
and
you.
watched us today as well. We will catch you all soon.